And here we are back again, and ladies and gentlemen, this is really getting crowded in here. Can you see this? I mean, it's like we have 6 people right now, and the studio is made for 4. So this next slot is gonna be quite crowded, and maybe it's also crowded with content. I don't know, because I'm gonna leave in a few seconds. Well, who we got sitting here? Maybe just a quick introduction. This is, I'd say, the developer elite of the THQ Nordic family. So, and they're gonna be talking to you about some heavyweight developer stuff. I think you can ask them almost any questions that has to do with game development, and they will be able to answer, because as I said, they are the absolute elite. So there's always professionals, and these are the guys on top of the professionals. So please enjoy. So this is a hard one for you now, okay? You take it from here. I'm gonna leave for the next 45 minutes. I'll be back later, and I'm gonna catch you. I'll be following this conversation from next door, and just
we will ask you questions if you understood the content when you're back, yeah?
Okay, there's gonna be a test.
Questions.
Yeah, there's gonna be a test. So for you two, everything that's gonna be talked about in here, there's gonna be a test afterwards, and you definitely gotta pay close attention to get this test. But you can't win anything, so I don't want to promise this. Please, guys, take it from here. Maybe you can just quickly introduce who you are, what you're doing, and then you'll take it from here. As I said, I'll be gone. I'll just leave really quietly.
Up and away.
And I'm a little. I don't know if that's a good idea.
Something's different. We were more people, I think. Someone left. I don't know who. I don't remember. Who are you, by the way?
Hello, I'm Antony from Keen Games, based in Frankfurt.
I'm Jan from Deck 13.
Did you actually lock the door?
I think he locked the door.
Okay.
I'm Björn Pankratz from Piranha Bytes.
I'm Jan Theysen from King Art Games.
And I'm Adrian from Black Forest Games.
And actually, I think there are 2 companies working for THQ at the moment, out of 5.
Oh, you want to clarify that we don't all belong to THQ?
Yeah.
But we are now in their rooms and they locked the door, so who knows what happens next?
So. No way out.
So maybe I can take a seat next to you, because I'm sitting here in the front, and it's very weird talking to you, like looking left and right and left and right. That's not so. Okay.
Okay, great. And then we have questions from you guys that we can answer if some of us old people can read the stream from our... You can.
No,
perfect. Oh, you can.
I have to pick up my
okay, then you will be our stream reader, and you will put in the questions.
Oh, really? No,
okay. No. Yeah, I mean, we brought a topic with us because we are all in some lead positions of studios in Germany, and we have this developer channel called DevPlay, where we all meet together and discuss about game development and reveal all the secrets. So if you want to know any secrets about game development, now is the time, or you check out our channel. We had a topic for today, lightly, like what makes out a good game.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if we can answer it. So, but how about everybody starts with telling what they think is a good game? And maybe we start now from the other side.
Okay, you got me.
So do you know what for you makes out a good game?
One of from starting with the basics, and a very basic thing is that the game needs to run smoothly. Yeah, you should be able to play the game. So having too much bugs, crashes, stuff like that, that's just the baseline. That shouldn't happen. You should be able to play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the #1 reason why people don't vote a game or don't like a game is bugs and crashes and stuff like that. So yeah, that's really the basic. Also, I wish I had my presentation with me, because 2 days ago I held a talk about exactly that, that thing. So
you're the most prepared person here.
Yeah,
so we will ask you all the questions.
Yeah, I just could have just do the same thing again. No, actually, I think one of the most important things is having a target audience that's interested in your game. You know, I mean, it sounds stupid, but in the end, you know, you can make the best game if nobody cares about it or is interested in playing this game. It just doesn't work, you know. And it's interesting because sometimes people say, okay, just look, what are the most successful games and do something like that. But here in Germany, for example, the most successful game each year is FIFA, soccer. And it would be a terrible idea to make a soccer game, because everybody who's interested in playing soccer or football on PlayStation or PC or whatever plays FIFA or maybe Pro Evolution Soccer, and there is really no available target audience. And so I think when we think about a game, the first thing we do is we think about, okay, where might be people looking for, a new game or a new experience, and then we go for them.
I think the most important thing is for sure that it is fun to play the game. Yeah, and that's the most difficult thing, I think. Yeah, because you don't know. Yeah, when you start a project, if it is fun to play it in the end. And what are the methods we use for that? Yeah, to find out if it's really funny or not. Is there the mojo, the gameplay, and everybody likes it, and so yeah. The first step is your team. Does your team like the game? Yeah, to play the game. Yeah, it's not in every case we have games and so on. It's a long time to produce it and to make it and so. And on the way, someday, yeah, when you release it, it has to be fun.
And
funny, yeah, and to play it, and that's the most difficult thing. And what is the main method to reach this goal?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. Tell us.
Yes, thank you for giving that to me, because like you said, it's really difficult, but I agree with one thing that I would say makes a good game is the team has passion for it. Yeah. So what you say is they have to like it, of course they have to maybe even play it, and that's something when we started at Deck 13, 20 years ago or whatever. And with adventure games, it's very hard to have passion for your game, because you just click through a story that's predefined and it's boring at the beginning when there's no voice in. It's never fun, only when it's done, and then it's not fun for you as the developer, because it's already, the story has been told 1,000 times for you. So with other games like maybe Elex or Search, these are games you can play in the studio. People can try it out. People can fight enemies. People can collect stuff and so on. I think the tricky thing is to make this happen is you have it playable early on to get this fun. So you cannot, like with the adventure game, wait for the release and say, okay, now it's all together. Now, out. Hopefully it's fun. You have to do this at a prototype level when it's all blocky and you just have white boxes for your trees and stuff. You have to have this in the first months and have people play it and say, I like it. This is cool. You have the experience from your team where you say, okay, my boss developer likes this boss even though it just has 4 blocky arms or something, but he knows it will be fun, and if not, he will change it, and he knows how to change it. I think this is important. So I would say to make a game successful, have it playable early on by the team. The team needs to play it and to like it or to hate it and to change it. But I don't know. You're also making games like several that were really successful. What was your recent most successful title, would you say?
It's probably Portal Knights, which we still continue to work on. It's out since 3 years now in life. We worked on it for 5 years. Sold about 3 million units so far, which is
a really
pretty
successful
cool.
game.
There's even coming an MMO in China, which we don't do, so it's a different thing. But yeah, for me it's a similar thing. I mean, if we talk about developing games and not just about why is a game fun. For developing, I also agree very much with you in that respect, that we have to play the game, that we actually want to make a game that we want to play ourselves, which is, in the past, it was not ever the case. We did some work for hire titles, and not everyone on the team might be into dancing games, as we did a Dance Dance Revolution game, for example, for Konami. And that's a fun experience, but if not everyone buys into this and is really engaged in it, then it's getting tricky to make a super polished experience in the end. So what we do is really, like you say, a lot of play sessions, especially in the beginning of the project. Like, we basically had daily play sessions on several titles over a month of time. And it looks ugly for sure. There's no fancy graphics in there. But it's really about getting a feel for it, that it just feels right. I mean, it needs to have that sweet spot between, there's some challenge, so it's not super easy, but at the same time, you have the feeling every time I fail, it's my fault, not the game's fault, for example. So it needs like the player needs control over what happens. For me personally, something I'm striving for is making games that you can really dive into and stay in for a long time. I mean, it's also something that we as a company embrace a lot, like having games that have long-running service and really something where community builds around. Hopefully there's a strong interest to stay there and play for hundreds or even thousands of hours, which is tough to manage in a lot of ways, to keep people engaged for a long time. But it also means that the game needs to be, as you said, fun at its core, because otherwise there's nothing there. You can't just live as a fancy business model or something to make a game right. It's just some bits and beats.
Talking about the fun in the game, but there are other stuff also. Let's say visuals are a very unique setting. Talking about Iron Harvest, which is the setting is extremely unique. Yeah. How important is that for a good game?
Well, I think it's important to stand out. You know, there are so many games out there, and if your game looks like 10 other games, then it's really hard. So you need some hook, some visual hook, or some gameplay hook, or something that grabs the interest of people. Then after that you can explain your game, and you can show it, and you can show all the cool ideas and the story and all that stuff. But you need this first, the first hook that basically grabs people.
What's the visual hook with Iron Harvest? I mean, you have something pretty strong, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the artworks by Jakob Posadzki, who basically came up with this alternate reality where basically World War I was fought with mechs, and so he has these like old school European oil paintings with diesel punk mechs, and they look just cool. And this was actually the first. This was the first thing I thought when I saw it, was just, oh, this is cool, and I just bookmarked it, and we didn't have an idea for a game or something like that. And then months later, when we thought about maybe making a real-time strategy game, I remembered these artworks, but the artworks themselves were so strong, that many people around the world basically knew them already when we announced the game. There were tons of people already tons of people who already knew his stuff, and this helps obviously, because then people think, okay, this is actually what is this? Why is there a mech in this oil painting? And then there is a base interest in the game basically.
So you didn't have to like invent everything from a totally blank white paper, but you saw something that also grabbed your attention, and you could use that.
That was already strong. I mean, there is a board game based on the same universe called Scythe, and this board game, it's a great game, no question. But it definitely helped that they had these visuals. So people saw these artworks and they thought, okay, this is interesting, this is cool, and then they looked into the board game, and the board game is cool, and then it became a huge success, and all because of the visuals.
And Adrian, when you did Fade to Silence, you had to be a bit more, like, I would say, imaginative with coming up with your own stuff. Is that right? And now you're changing with Destroy All Humans. You have something where there's a predefined universe with a look, with a feel to it. How does that feel for you, this change? Is it better? Is it worse? Does it give you exactly these visuals that you need to stand out? How does that feel?
Yeah. It's so we have a team of almost 70 people. So, and that's depending on the department, of course, the main target for everyone is to create something new. Yeah, that's always the main driver in game development. And if you create something like a remake of Destroy Humans, you have limitations. You have lots of limitations. On the other side, let's say artists, they have the chance to. Because we're building it completely new. So they have the chance within their limitations say, okay, I can make it much cooler, and I still can work out details and can make new stuff. The biggest challenge is on the game design side, because there's not that much you can change here. You have to improve, and it's a challenge itself to have something and to, hey, you have to make it better, I have to make it state of the art. But I would say the game design are those who suffer the most from doing a remake. But the artists, the level designers, they really can still do their magic. And they're extremely happy with doing this because Fate of Silence was a very long, challenging project. It was a completely different mood with very dark, and the whole game was about survival. And now doing something funny, action is a very good change for the team, and it gives us a very chance to just to do something very new. So I think everyone in this team is extremely excited about the project, and they love it. The first response was more like, okay, a remake. But then we realized, okay, it's completely making the game new, and finding out and really can go into deep what makes things better. So
in a way, the original game was something like a very elaborate prototype, you know, and then now you can really make the game.
Yeah, you make the actual game now.
Yeah, right.
Okay, we'll talk with my marketing guys.
Yeah, maybe it's a good brand, maybe not. We don't know. But you also worked on other licenses or IPs with your team in the past, even on some of Björn's team's IPs, isn't that right?
On Gothic.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
But Gothic was really coming from nothing, right? There was a whole world where there was nothing before.
Yeah,
we
were people who love role-playing games, pen and paper and stuff, and thought about making a game we would be the best ever. Yeah, that was the plan. That was the vision. And then came a game out of it, in the end.
And reality happens.
Yeah, it's just somehow, I ask many people about what is the most important thing about a game, of a game. Is it the story? Is it the most important thing, or is it for you the quality of the graphics, or is it the sound and music and the atmosphere, or what is it exactly? Yeah, and there is I got every time many different answers about that. Yeah. Okay, for sure, it's always a mixture of all these things, but there are games who are concentrating on storyline. There are games they are very linear sometimes and stuff like that. We have an open world and telling stories and so on, and but what do you think? Yeah, experts here. What is the real most important things about making a game? Depends it always on depends on the game you make, or is there some objective truth in there?
I think it's so hard to define really what it is, because everybody knows when a game is great when it's done. You say, yeah, this is cool, I like the graphics, I like the freedom of gameplay or something. But when you try to mix it up at the beginning, like with you guys saying, okay, we just take stuff and do something out of it, or also you did, like saying, okay, with Portal Knights, like you're saying, what types of games do we mix into it, stuff like that.
But we don't know what exactly how many % we have in the end when it's finished.
I think you cannot say. I think it's so many different aspects, and each could be the best one. Like you could say the fighting is the best one in the game. I don't care so much about the others. Like you said, it needs to be polished, it needs to have good graphics. But in the end, if this one is good, its fighting is good, and the rest is just developed properly, then it's a cool game. Or other people say, no, I want the freedom in the world. Like you said, some games are linear, some are not. And I think this is also the cool thing. Games is not games. I mean, you can have a strategy game, and people who like action games, they will maybe never play it, and they maybe don't know that it exists, and I think this is the cool thing. Also, like Jan, you said, games are cool if they have their fan base, or if they're successful, or if they sell. I mean, some games just have maybe 5,000 people, but they love the game so dearly, they write books about it and stuff, and you say, wow, you're really crazy. Is that a bad game because it doesn't have like the big audience? No, but it maybe doesn't sell. Like maybe you couldn't go to THQ and say, I have a super cool idea. They say, yeah, this is really nice, and you say, I think I'll sell 5,000, and they say, ooh, maybe we want to sell 5 million, so maybe it's not for us, but it doesn't mean it's a bad game.
No, absolutely not. And I think it's also, it's interesting because I think it changes what makes a good game, you know, because there is not like a formula, or there's something like a formula you can discover, and as soon as you figured it out once, you can make one great game after another. It's not working like that because, the tastes change and what people like changed, and there are new trends and so on. And so it's with each game, basically, it's about, finding the fun. You have some vision and you think this might be interesting and this might be fun, then you try it out. And sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Most of the times it's somewhere in between, and you try to make it work.
But is that true? Because Björn was part of the Gothic series and the Risen series and Elex, and I think there is a formula, isn't there? Like there is something that is the same and that people like. So maybe there is some sort of formula. I don't know.
Yeah, there is some sort of base things we do, but we indeed do innovative things like making a complete new setting, the science fantasy setting, or we want to make it happen that you can play a game with a jetpack and fly everywhere you want to be, and that every NPC in the world could be the first you meet in somewhere, and the story has to work anyway. And so, yeah, that's true. But there are many companies who do this that way, yeah, and always many people talk about the formula of the company or the formula of the publisher or something like that, but not really exists.
And it's not really true, because even something like a Call of Duty or something like that, well, it's the same game over and over again. It's not. No. If you play a Call of Duty today and compare it with the Call of Duty from 10 years ago, it's not the same. It's not like only better graphics or something like that, but there are many things that evolved. And also, if you say, okay, there is something like a Piranha Bytes formula, maybe a little bit, but still, you made games in different, not genres, at least settings. Yeah. And if you would have done the same setting like 8 or 9 times back to back, then probably this wouldn't have worked out so well. So. Yeah. You have to change, and you have to come up with something new.
Yeah. I believe what you said, Jan, is the key, that you need to have a focus on what you're doing. Everything else should be okay, but there's one thing that should stand out, like let's say the search. And you clearly put a focus on combat. Then you evolve, of course, the search to you add features, you add new setting stuff, but you still have one core feature that's standing out, and that you choose one. Yeah, that's for Piranha Bytes or for Elex, this open world where you can go everywhere. You might not survive it, but you can go everywhere. You have this very unique setting. Destroy Humans is this core thing, is the humor and the movement. And Portal Knights is just this development of what you're doing, and so you look for a focus, and there should be one thing that's really good, and everything should at least be okay.
What is it with Portal Knights?
Portal Knights is a bit of a tricky example, because it combines lots of elements, like you have this action RPG combat mix, then there's a terraforming aspect and base building, like a bit of Minecraft. And then you have this progression through the world and boss fights and all these other things. So there's creative modes and whatever. So it's quite a big mix. I mean, looking at it from the big picture, obviously you have to have some standout thing that connects with players. Visuals always are the first thing you see. That's why screenshots and trailers are always important to get their attention, at least, because there's so many games coming out nowadays that you won't have a chance if you don't stand out in some ways. Hopefully there's not just visuals, but also from the new twist and the mix of things you present to players, or there needs to be something fresh about it.
For me, it was always the progress in Portal Knights. There's always something.
It had more of a rhythm.
With everything what you do.
Exactly. Like in Minecraft, it's very open, very free, and that also has a big charm about it. And that's something that other players are missing in Portal Knights. We try to make it more gamey, more level-based, more you can unlock stuff. You have gates that you can pass, and more progression with RPG mechanics. But taking a step back, I mean, obviously there's lots of formulas how to make a game good. I mean, there's lots of books and GDC talks about game design, like how your core game loop works and what's your outer loop like, and lots of little intricate things we think about in terms of combat design. And all these kind of elements. So there is lots of formula out there. Obviously, just applying that won't make you a good game. I mean, you have to get this look and feel right. Like, what is it that makes it feel good? I mean, is it a game about flow, like playing Tetris and just get in there, or is it more about the feeling to be somewhere else? Like for me, it's a lot about escapism and being present in a different world, or at least that got me into gaming. I like having this extra world in that machine, and I can visit that as a separate place. It's totally cool. So
there's an interesting question there from Master Doctor. Yeah. How difficult is it, while develop a game, figure out what can and what can't be in a game, like side missions, features, and games and plot? Yeah. Okay, every time we make a project, we make a plan for it. And we say, okay, we want to reach 100% of that what we are planning, at the end. How difficult is it in the end when you make the decision or you find out while you are producing it, that we have some kind of wrong way,
or your time is running out, or your budget is running out.
Or something like that. How many percent is it in the end of that what you have planned in the first place?
I mean, very often it is, budget reasons or time reasons and stuff like that. But it's also, does it feel right? Sometimes a game or a world might feel empty. Then you have to put more into it. But also sometimes things feel a little bit like a waste of time, or you don't feel the progression, and then sometimes it's better just to cut out stuff, I think, I personally think that many games just have too much stuff in them, and especially stuff that's not really interesting or not really contributing anything to the game or to the story. And then very often I think maybe it would be better to really focus on the main game, make that really great, and make it maybe a little bit shorter but a really cool experience, instead of having a game that feels a little bit too big and too boring, and then sometimes you stop playing a game that would have been great if it would have been, just half the length, for example.
But it is so you find out while you are producing it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's really.
But again, you have to play it. You have to play it, and then you have to figure out: is this actually fun? Is this actually great? And we had this idea for a feature, and maybe the feature just doesn't work. And then you have to be tough with yourself and basically kill your baby and get rid of it, because it's a bad idea to keep stuff in it just because it took a lot of time or a lot of work to make it. So it's not fun, but we keep it in the game. It's never a good idea.
Cool. But that's also why I think what I said before, you need to have it early. You need to have it early to see what's cool about it. Does that idea work out? Is that feature really necessary? What I think is the hard thing about it is prototyping a fight. It needs a lot of systems and so on, but you can still do it early, and you can do a lot of tricks so that you get the right feeling, and you can play for 1 minute and you see, that will be fun, let's do more of this and so on. But having a progression loop, like equipping your character, leveling your character up, crafting something, you maybe need 10 hours, and that's a cool thing. Like you said, with Portal Knights, for you it's the progression, and the progression is not there in 1 minute, the progression is there in 5 hours or something. So how do you get this? And I think this is tricky to get these things right sometimes, because also if you change a tiny thing, you would need to test 5 hours, 10 hours to see if it's still fun. So if you say, we changed to crafting, and maybe you ruin your whole idea, but you only find out after lots of testing, and maybe a month goes by in the development, you say, maybe that wasn't a good idea, and you lose a month. This is really much. So I think the short-term things are way easier to get right when you really focus on them, and the long-term things that are sometimes really the fun of the game, like, okay, I'll just go out now, play for 2 hours, and I know I will just craft, or I will just upgrade, or just level up my character, and have no other goal in mind. I think this is sometimes, like you say, you go in this world and do just stuff, and this is cool. But to get this right in development, you need the time and sometimes the imagination that this will work, and you need the patience, and then only you can play it. And I think this is really a tricky part of games that allow this freedom.
And also it's always a little bit tricky, because when you're the developer, you know your game inside out, and sometimes or eventually you just lose any ability to really judge your game, because then you know how to play it, and you know stuff, and you're getting good at it automatically because you play it so much. and then when people outside the company play the game, you know, they have a totally different experience sometimes because they don't know all the stuff you know, and maybe you change something in the UI or so on, and all of a sudden important informations are not there any longer, or you forgot like maybe a tutorial step or something, and nobody catches, and the company catches that problem because everybody knew how to do it, and everybody thought, no, this is fine, this is great. And then somebody else plays the game and it's like, okay, this is not working at all because we forgot to communicate important information, for example.
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
And so what we do, or what is part of development is playtesting, which basically means giving the game to real players and watch them and see what they do. And if they actually do what you think they will do. Yeah. And for Iron Harvest, we have the luxury that because it was a Kickstarter game, we had the community very early on board. And so at the moment there is the third alpha version out there, and we get tons of feedback, and that of course is cool because then we don't have to imagine what players are saying, but we really get the feedback,
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, that's exactly the thing. Like, you need to have some outside feedback to actually not lose sight of what you're doing. I mean, we worked with before release because there you don't have this community aspect to it, which is great. We work with player research, for example, to have focus tests with distributed groups of players. We also brought in just on a personal level, just friends and family and whatever, and set them there, just watching them play without too much explanation and seeing where they actually struggle with things, and if things actually go to plan from what we imagine it should be. And a lot of times you figure out, it just doesn't make sense for them, or they don't get the point and feel lost and all these kind of things. I mean, after release, that the great thing about games that just run after you release it, actually, you can include the community. You can ask them, make surveys, or read Steam reviews. We actually made statistics of Steam reviews, like taking 1,000 reviews, reading through them, putting out all the points that players mentioned, like good or bad ones, and then try to figure out what might be a general sentiment, but did we totally fuck up with or whatever. Yeah. So, and that a lot of these things help. I mean, there's other means to go for it. I mean, we also had EDAR tests, or can also have metrics in games that give you a hint why people drop out after the tutorial or whatever it is. So, not lose sight of that, but not let you drive 100% by what people ask for, because then you give them whatever flying everywhere, and then suddenly everyone's bored because there's no challenge anymore. Yeah.
But would that mean that another thing to make a good game is have people test it, have players play it, really?
Oh, for sure.
So that's like, you cannot just make a good game and you say, I know how to do it, here's your game, you will be happy with it.
You need to have both. I mean, you have to have a vision where you want to go, and you have to stick with it to a good extent, because otherwise you might have a mixed bag in the end. But at the same time, you have to validate your ideas to actually make sure that it did make sense in the first place, hopefully quick enough.
There's one interesting thing I want to know. Someone in the chat wrote, Joe, 450 some time ago, how difficult it is to balance all these things, bug fixing and graphics and so and blah. And you said something about, it's a matter about of budget and time. Is it really time? Yeah. When you have enough time, 5 years for a project or so, isn't there some point of, it's finished and nobody has really fun to make it on and fix it and make it, and so it fills up with routine and stuff like that. Yeah. How do you think about that? Also, I think 3 years, approximately 3 years for a project like Elex, is enough for that,
and it's already a long time for games.
Then we have to start something new to get back the mojo and the fun to make games, and so how do you think about that?
I believe we never had 3 years for any game, game. So it's more about, sometimes you just need to polish some stuff. But in general, my experience is that there is a point in development, hopefully very early, where it just makes click and you know, this game will work and it will be great. I remember it was Jana Sisters we made, Twisted Dreams, and there was a point where we added the music switch, and it was just fun adding the electronic music from Chris Hülsbeck, changing when you change the world to the metal music from Machine Supremacy. And then we just showed it. It was really more for fun, and then everyone said, yeah, that's it. And you have this point in development where you realize, oh yeah, that will work. And then I agree, it can't go on forever. There's a time where just everyone wants to have it finished there, and you're running out of motivation. There's anyway always the end time where it's more about hard work, not about being creative, just now hard work, getting it done, making it ready.
Okay, that means time doesn't equal everything, yeah? Okay.
But I would not fully agree that this is always the case, because we're working together with an indie team, and they're releasing Crosscode, which is a game they've been working on, I think, for 7 years they've been working on the game, and they never made it worse, and they never got bored. I mean, now that it's released and they're doing DLCs and stuff, they want to shift into something new, but they always took a year longer, and we said, guys, you need to put this on the market. Who knows if pixel RPGs will still be a thing in 2 years. Now it's cool to release it. They said, yeah, we'll think about it, and they just did their thing, and they just polished their game, and they never released something that was, like you said, they never released something that had bugs, that had anything that was not polished from the progression. And it's a super, super cool game, and people love it. It's got like really among the highest ratings on Steam. So I think it depends, maybe, like you say, there is a time, I would agree. If it is like 2 years, 5 years or something, like my first game I did in school, and I worked on it 4 years, and the fun thing was that like it was a like civilization type game in space, so you could always add features and stuff. And I started with very limited features, but some friends came over and they played for 3 hours, and then they complained about features missing. And then I said, oh no, you're stupid, it's not the game. And then I implemented all they said. So I think sometimes if you have the time and you have the right attitude and the right game to it, it can take very long. Sometimes maybe it's really bad for the game. But I don't know if there's an ideal time for every game. I don't know.
I mean, for sure not. I mean, if you take far too long, I mean, obviously publishers wouldn't like that, because nobody knows how the market will look like in 5 years' time.
Nobody will give you money anymore.
That's another good reason. I mean, and there's also the question like, why does it take so long? I mean, I certainly think you need a lot of time to get things right. More than money, I would say. Like, rather have a smaller team over a longer period if possible.
Yeah, that's right.
To get these last 10% right. Like, that it really feels really, really well polished, or at least the core elements need to really work. And that's something that just also, I mean, obviously a lot of that should happen during prototyping even, but when you want to finish it, I mean, in the old days when we did boxed games, like you had this one release and everyone was pushing for it, and then it's out and you couldn't do anything about it because there were not even patches around. Like, there was no internet being present in games at this point. And yeah, I mean, you always felt there's something missing there because you had so much more on your agenda which you couldn't fit in, which isn't necessarily bad, because a game is not about the amount of features, it's the amount of polish for my taste. But at the same time, there is always more you want to do, and I think this hybrid of getting a game for a release, if it's early access or not, it's fine. You have to have a polished core of the game for a release, and then if you've given the opportunity to work on it continuously. I mean, I'm still having fun after 5 years of Portal Knights. We're finally starting something new as well, but Portal Knights will continue. And yeah, it's great to see that you can pull things from your backlog and actually say, now we're going to do it. I mean, it was just totally out of question for release. I mean, even if we knew it before, but suddenly you can pull it off and then put enough time in it to actually make this thing work, which is awesome.
It's also a little bit about what you're doing in the time, because if you really make this one game and then you're polishing it and bug fixing it and so on, then it's a little bit of like diminishing returns, because the game this week looks more or less like last week. We fixed like a couple of bugs that were very not a lot of people encounter these bugs, and now they're out and the game is a little bit better, but sometimes it feels like, okay, it's not really fun, because early in the production, a lot of things are happening, and you come up with all these ideas, and that's fun and it's great, and then you're doing this stuff and you see, each build of the game, it's so much better than the last build, and there's so much new stuff in it, and then it gets slower and slower and slower, and the changes get smaller and smaller, and then there is some times where you just say, okay, you know, I don't want to see it anymore. Yeah. It's just get it out there and it's fine. But it's something different with Portal Knights or games like this, because you basically have an ongoing development, and so it's always something new, and you have always the fun parts and the not so fun parts, you know, and it's this way it's a little bit different, you know. It's an ongoing production is not like, okay, we're doing this one game and then we have like the cool parts and then we have like half a year of boring.
I mean, there's this death march situation in games sometimes where people start crunching and all these kind of things, and it takes a lot of that away. I mean, I haven't crunched since years, I would say, which feels really good, because that shouldn't be the core of game development for my taste. And yeah, it takes out the pressure, because if you go on with releases, it doesn't make sense, like to burn out your team or something just because there's this important release, because there's just another release after that. So at least if you have a core game that works and people feel attached to it and you're given the opportunity to basically continue to it, I mean, if people won't buy it, or then obviously there can't be a live team that continues making add-ons to this. I mean, it's a very specific thing, so I'm talking too much about us in that case, but I just like the way to work with the actual players like you do, to actually make a better and better and better game, and given the opportunity to actually add new stuff or stuff that we always wanted to do, but it was out of question to have the budget or time or support or team to actually put it all in the base game.
But you already have a game out there, so there is this satisfaction. If you're still working on the game without having released, even Crosscode was released very early.
They had an early access version that
and that I think helps a lot.
So you have the satisfaction, there's something, then keep on working, I can imagine that, but keep on working and you never put something out, and you keep working and you still don't know if it received well and how people like it, and I feel that's
at some point you lose touch and will probably look out of time from the releases that are going to be there.
And again, it's one of the great things when you do a Kickstarter or early access or so on. People playing your game, giving you feedback, but it's also motivation boost. You know, because all of a sudden all the guys working on the game see there are actually people playing it and enjoying it, and giving us feedback, and then it doesn't feel like you're doing something and there is a big black hole and you throw everything in it and nothing comes back. But it's more like, okay, there's actually if I fix this one thing, I know there are some people who really will enjoy that and give me credit for it, and it's really cool for motivation, you know. So we read all the comments and all that stuff, because it just feels good to actually work for people who enjoy it, you know.
So, Björn, do you have another really cool question?
I didn't recognize. I think the people are waiting for the SpongeBob.
I see.
So we
good choice.
We are German developers, Piranha Bytes,
Tech 13,
Keen Games, King Art, and Black Forest Games. And we are talking about different things about making games and what is important about that.
And we will reveal secrets. So if you have something where you think, oh, I always wanted to know and nobody's telling me, then we will tell you, because we just know how it is behind the scenes, and we are not afraid sharing stuff apart from... Oh, I'm not allowed to say this. No, so coming back to what makes a good game, I think we had assembled some stuff like we say, it should be polished, the team needs to like it, the team needs to play it, we need to have gamers who really like the game and play the game, maybe before we release it. We said the game needs some time to be developed, but maybe not like all the time in the world, and can get boring. Are there other things where we would say, maybe as an advice, if someone says, I want to make a game, what should they focus on? What is maybe the first thing they should do? Is there something that maybe is at the start of every game? Like, I talked to some people here on the show, they said, I will do my first game, and what I want to do is, first thing I will do, I will set up a company. So I will then go to the tax people and get my tax number, and I get a bank account, and then I get an office and a phone line and internet and my computers. Is that the way? Is that not the way? Is there something you would have as advice for people who want to start something?
Yeah, I believe usually you have 10 million when you start a game.
Of course.
From this 10 million, only put 1 million in the company, and
that's a good idea. That's a very good and helpful idea. I will keep this in mind.
So there's one thing. I think it's for everyone of us. We very often get people applying or telling us, "Yeah, I got an idea for a game," and then tell us, and it's a story. Yeah. If you're talking about a game, it's not a story. Yeah, think about what is the game about, what are the features, what is the gameplay, and not what is the story. Usually 90% you just get a story told.
Yeah, and also I think it's never about the idea really, only in a very small number of cases. The idea for a game really sells the idea. It's more how, what are you doing with the idea? Are you able to make a great game out of it? Are you able to meet quality standards and so on? And so what I would say is if you want to become a game developer, develop games, because in reality your first couple of games probably going to suck, because it's not easy. And it's, there are exceptions, but in general. And so I would say, try to do maybe modding other games, or do like level editor stuff for a game you like or whatever, so that you're really doing the things, and then release it and get the feedback and make it better the next time. And if you have done it a couple of times, you get better and better. You get connections, you learn, you meet other developers, and then maybe someday you have a team where you say, hey, actually, we could do a whole game, and we could do something together that's has the potential at least to be successful, and then you can go to a publisher, and then you can try to build a company out of it. But you should start with your skills and not with ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't think too much about a company in the first place. Think about what you actually want to make. I mean, it's not like, I want to run a business or something. I mean, then probably other business areas are much easier or better suited to make money than games development, I would say. Find people who are like-minded and don't think about having a huge team. Don't try to take a big bite like, oh, let's totally make an MMO or whatever as a first game. Start super simple. I mean, like, try to remake an existing super simple game. Like, make your own Tetris, just to figure out how much work that actually is, and then try to get to the core of what makes your game special. I mean, that's the key thing. Do the homework to actually look around. Are there any other games already that are exactly that, or potentially even better? Or, is it an important thing that is missing in the marketplace? Just invest a lot of time. Don't try to run it as your job in the first place. Do it from school, as a lot of us did probably, and while you have time or while studying, and just go for it and keep going. And if you're good at what you're doing, or get better about what you're doing, success will be around the corner, I guess. But you need to be persistent. That's another good thing.
Right. Who's there?
Hello. Knock, knock.
Are you ready for your test, sir?
Who's there? You've seen the chat. They were really paying attention, so absolutely. I think they should have no problems in answering all the questions we have for them. But unfortunately, we were out of time, so we have no time more for the test. So we would do it. We have prepared so much for this test, but I'm so
People
sorry.
are waiting for SpongeBob. Let him in.
They are real. You have read it, right? They're looking forward to it. But still, some interesting information. But let me ask the question: did you find the secret formula then?
No.
Did you find it? Did you identify
we have
it?
So the secret formula is... Oh, you're running out of time. Sorry.
This is really too bad.
Almost.
Secret formula is hard work. Do it, and find out.
Never give up.
Think about a pro skater. He will just fall and break all the bones in their body, but then they become the pro skater. It's the same with everything else.
You see, over and over again.
We're all pro skaters, right?
And if you trip and fall, just stand up again and learn how to walk. So this is a nice last word. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for this awesome little insight in your work and into your heads, I would say. And we'll head to a short little break. It's gonna be little tiny break, and then we'll have Lenificate and Hardcore Cosplay here with me, and they are gonna be playing the long-awaited title you've been all here for now, as Battle for Bikini Bottom SpongeBob, of course, Rehydrated. It's gonna be good. So see you in a few minutes.
See you.
Ciao.